don't touch me anymore.
A rumor can move faster than a twister in an open field, and few rumors moved quite like the one that nearly derailed Lorrie Morgan's career in 1995. Most fans knew her as a gifted vocalist raised in the shadow of the Grand Ole Opry, a performer whose ballads carried both heartbreak and resilience. Yet within days, she found herself at the center of a scandal involving President Bill Clinton, a salacious tale about a limousine encounter that tabloids refused to let die. Today, we're cutting through the noise to uncover what really happened, revealing how a single rumor forever changed one of country music's most celebrated voices. When Bill Clinton swept into the White House in 1993, country fans were intrigued. No previous president had shown such a down-home affection for Nashville's sound. He invited top singers to state dinners, flaunted his saxophone skills, and praised the Grand Ole Opry. Many artists, even those wary of mixing music with politics, appeared at these functions, sensing a chance to expand their appeal. Yet some industry insiders worried. Country music has deep traditional roots, often leaning conservative, and Clinton's policies made parts of his base uneasy. Artists had to tread carefully. One careless moment could turn political headlines into personal nightmares. For Lorrie Morgan, 1995 was already tumultuous. She was juggling personal issues, a messy divorce, the pressure of maintaining her chart success, and financial uncertainties. A daughter of Opry legend George Morgan, she had first performed there at 13. After her father's passing, she fought her way up the ladder, singing in local clubs and working as a receptionist before winning her first record deal. By the late 1980s, her big voice and heartfelt storytelling drew fans like bees to honey. Albums like Leave the Light On and Something in Red spawned radio hits that resonated with audiences seeking genuine emotion. Personal tragedy also played a role in her image. Her husband, country star Keith Whitley, had died, and the grief both shattered and fueled her. The public sympathized with her struggles. By the mid-1990s, Morgan was a fixture on the charts. Hits like What Part of No cemented her reputation as a top-tier singer with a fierce stage presence. She carried herself with an unapologetic edge, known for speaking her mind and cutting through industry niceties. That edge helped her connect with fans, but it could also provoke controversy. Industry watchers knew that if any star might end up in a scandal, it could be Lorrie Morgan. The alleged incident took place at a political fundraiser in Washington. The event itself was routine. Donors, politicians, and musical guests mingling for photo ops. Morgan, rumored to have been invited personally by Clinton, performed a short set. Observers described the president offering praise for her powerhouse vocals. After the show, she posed for photographs, laughed with the crowd, and appeared to be enjoying the night. Then certain onlookers claimed they saw Morgan and Clinton slip away, vanishing from the ballroom for a stretch of time. In the days that followed, a rumor took shape. One version alleged that they spent nearly an hour in a presidential limousine, parked in a private area of the hotel. Others pictured them in a roped-off suite. All shared the same insinuation. Something more than casual conversation happened. Within a week, tabloids ran headlines about a secret limo rendezvous. Cable talk shows mused about another Clinton scandal, fueling speculation. Morgan's initial response was silence. She had weathered public gossip before, from her love life to her fashion choices. But even she couldn't guess how quickly these rumors would explode. Soon, the scandal overshadowed her music. Radio programmers in certain regions, wary of controversy, cut back on her airplay. Promoters fretted that negative press would hurt ticket sales. Colleagues tiptoed around her, some implying that she was now too hot to collaborate with. She lost out on at least one high-profile duet opportunity. It felt like a slow freeze. People who had once considered her an ally suddenly acted as though she carried a stain that might rub off on them. The impact on her personal life was brutal. Her children faced uncomfortable questions at school. Close friends asked whether she'd truly done anything with the president. Morgan swore that the rumor was baseless, but every denial seemed to stir the pot. She canceled a morning television appearance due to voice strain, hardly unusual for a touring vocalist. Yet gossips spun it into proof she ducked the media after a steamy night. Morgan found herself in a bind. Talked too much and people would think she was covering something up, say nothing, and the rumor would thrive on the vacuum. Tabloid reporters pestered her manager, her friends, even members of her band. For the Clinton administration, this was merely another swirl of personal gossip. They had dealt with similar stories before and saw no need to comment on a rumor about a country singer. That official silence, however, left the media free to interpret events however it wished. Some outlets speculated about secret deals or hush money. Others posted exclusive quotes from unnamed sources who claimed to have glimpsed something intimate. No one produced any photos or credible documentation, but the rumor ballooned anyway. Morgan's allies in Nashville urged her to stay focused on her art. Perhaps, they advised, releasing a new single would shift attention back to her music. She tried, dropping fresh songs to recapture radio momentum. But every time she promoted a single on a talk show, interviewers snuck in questions about Clinton. The subject loomed like a dark cloud. She tried downplaying it, insisting she and the president had merely exchanged pleasantries about music, yet interviewers pressed, refusing to move on. The scandal's most painful aspect was its longevity. Many celebrity rumors in that era flared up, made the rounds, and then died. This story, however, took on a life of its own. Late-night comedians cracked jokes about red dresses and limos. Newspaper cartoons depicted steamy car windows. Some fans found it amusing, others were outraged, and still others were simply confused. For Morgan, each jab hurt. She was a singer first and foremost. She had devoted her life to honoring her father's legacy and forging her own path. Now, with one rumor, that identity felt eclipsed. By the end of 1995, Morgan's professional standing had suffered. Album sales dipped, and brand endorsements evaporated. She later admitted that the financial toll was significant. She lost considerable sums due to canceled shows and sponsors pulling away. Her record label grew uneasy, urging her to keep her head down and avoid further controversy. Agents advised her to accept fewer interviews, especially on national platforms prone to sensational questions. She tried to pivot, focusing on her live performances, but the rumor always found a way to resurface. Fans demanded clarity, detractors wanted scandal. Frustration gnawed at her. Accustomed to confronting issues head-on, she tried issuing a direct statement. Nothing happened. "We had a brief conversation, that's all." But some fans insisted there had to be more. Gossip thrives on uncertainty, and the more she denied, the louder the speculation grew. Whispers circulated about missing Secret Service logs or hushed-up security footage. It seemed the entire fiasco had spun out of anyone's control. Media outlets that had once celebrated her voice now portrayed her as a provocative figure, cautioning that she'd brought it on herself. Meanwhile, personal cost weighed heavily on Morgan's psyche. She described losing sleep, feeling sick with dread before public appearances. She'd look out into crowds, worried someone would heckle her about Clinton. The tension seeped into her songwriting, giving a rawness to her performances, yet also draining her creative energy. She was at a crossroads. Fight the rumor more aggressively, or let it burn out on its own? Several months after the story broke, a staffer from the Democratic event claimed the rumor was completely fabricated, insisting Clinton never left the main ballroom without his aides. The tabloids brushed this aside, arguing that the staffer must be covering for the president. Another official reiterated the same point, but conspiracy theories flourished. Headlines like "Lorrie's Secret Shame" continued selling copies, and the scandal found new angles to exploit. Some tabloids dredged up her marital history, labeling her a serial heartbreaker. They took details of her relationships and contorted them to fit a narrative that she was a risk-taker in romance. Yet even as the rumor raged, Morgan pressed on, performing across the country. At shows, fans cheered her hits and sometimes hollered words of encouragement. A portion of the public refused to believe the worst about her. In interviews, she leaned on humor, making light of the rumor's absurdity. She joked that she'd been in a lot of limos in her life, but never with the president. Still, the whisper campaign lingered, overshadowing her music. Some critics felt the ordeal revealed society's appetite for salacious gossip over more substantial stories. As 1996 dawned, the scandal remained unresolved, stuck in a loop of claim and denial. Magazine covers still teased Limogate, while mainstream country outlets struggled to decide whether to defend one of their own or remain neutral. Morgan found solace in her kids, who reminded her that she'd survived harder trials. She devoted herself to new songwriting, plumbing her frustration for artistic inspiration. Privately, she told friends that she'd always known show business could be brutal, but this was a lesson in how quickly the public could turn on you for a rumor with no basis in reality. Eventually, the rumor lost some steam as other scandals broke elsewhere, drawing away the public's attention. Nonetheless, it didn't vanish entirely. People carried half-remembered stories, occasionally lobbing them at Morgan in interviews or radio call-ins for years to come. Unfair though it was, the link between her and that rumor became part of her broader reputation. She'd go on to release more albums and land more hits, but the stain never faded completely. It took years for country radio to give her the same level of robust support she'd once enjoyed without question. Seeking closure, Morgan finally granted an extensive interview to a major country publication in 1998. Calm and unguarded, she described the events of that night in Washington. She explained that she sang a handful of songs, chatted briefly with the president about her father's influence, and that was it. She showed records confirming she'd lost her voice the next morning, thus canceling her TV appearance. No one had produced evidence of any clandestine behavior because, she said, there was none to find. The interview came with corroboration from band members who had been with her, plus a few aides who confirmed she never left their sight. At last, the publication printed her side of the story in detail, giving her space to push back against the years of innuendo. This revelation landed with a thud, mostly because many fans and media outlets had already moved on. People who had believed the rumor still muttered it might be a cover-up, while those who admired her took the interview as confirmation of what they'd always suspected. The whole thing was baseless gossip. Morgan herself admitted feeling relief. Though the damage had been done, at least she could point to a definitive statement and say, "Look, here's my truth." She was tired of defending herself against phantoms. Over time, Morgan rebuilt her standing through consistent touring and recording. New singles found modest success, and she broadened her repertoire with duets and tribute projects. Though she didn't always recapture the chart dominance she had before the rumor, she remained beloved by her core audience. Live shows gave fans the raw, emotional voice they craved, and many applauded her resilience in the face of adversity. In interviews, she gradually steered clear of the scandal, focusing on the music. Reporters, sensing how exhausted she was by the topic, mostly let it lie. Looking back, the rumor functions as a cautionary tale for how quickly false stories can demolish hard-earned reputations. Morgan was a prime target, a known star, approachable enough to get invited to political events, but outspoken enough to tempt scandal-hungry tabloids. The Clinton White House, under siege from various allegations, offered a fertile environment for rumor peddlers. And in that swirl of headlines, Morgan's name was easy to exploit. Even now, if you bring up the rumor with some old-time country fans, they might recall hearing something about Lorrie Morgan and Bill Clinton. That vague recollection persists, even though the facts never supported any wrongdoing. Yet the deeper truth of Lorrie Morgan's life eclipses this one episode. She was a child of country royalty who lost her father young, married and lost Keith Whitley, poured her grief into her art, and refused to be silent in a business that often undervalues outspoken women. She sang songs of heartbreak and hope, bridging the old-school Opry crowd and newer country audiences. That is her lasting legacy. A scandalous rumor might have tarnished her image for a time, but it never snuffed out her passion for performing or her commitment to authenticity. In conversations with fans years later, Morgan sometimes referenced the ordeal with a half smile, noting how gossip can become bigger than the truth. She'd say, "If all they can talk about is a rumor, they're missing the real story." And the real story remains a testament to her grit. Even when it felt like the entire industry was snickering, she kept singing, kept showing up for her shows, and never let the rumor break her spirit. That is why for many listeners, she remains a symbol of perseverance. So did the rumor change country music forever? Maybe not. But it did reveal how a lie can slip through the cracks of political and entertainment coverage, turning a routine photo op into a salacious sideshow. It showed how hard it can be for an artist to control the narrative once it's taken on a life of its own. And it gave Morgan, whose father taught her to stand tall under the Opry lights, a chance to prove that her backbone was just as strong as her voice. In the end, the scandal stands as a dramatic footnote in the long story of Lorrie Morgan's career. Far more important are her albums, her stage performances, and the unwavering bond she's formed with loyal fans. If the rumor taught her anything, it was that surviving public scrutiny requires both thick skin and an unshakable sense of self. For those who love a good redemption arc, her journey offers a satisfying conclusion. A tough-minded artist refusing to let gossip define her legacy. Yes, the tabloids once shouted about a presidential affair, but the truth was simpler and far less sensational. That difference between rumor and reality is a lesson in humility, reminding us to question every splashy headline. Lorrie Morgan ultimately shook off the scandal by relying on what had always guided her, that golden voice, that natural showmanship, and the honesty embedded in her songs. Decades later, she's still performing and reminding audiences why she became a star in the first place. The rumor might forever cling to her name in certain circles, but her artistry outlasts any fleeting frenzy. And that, more than any headline, is the final word on Lorrie Morgan. But even in the darkest days of that ordeal, Morgan never lost the sense of humor that had guided her through so many personal trials. She occasionally joked to close friends that if the rumor were true, she'd have at least written a hit song about it, one with a catchy lyric referencing limousine blues and a cameo from a saxophonist in a suit. In private moments, she tried to comfort her children by assuring them that gossip was part of life in the public eye. She told them that most country legends had faced their share of wild stories, from Johnny Cash to Tammy Wynette. At the end of the day, what mattered most was family, loyal fans, and a dedication to real artistry. She clung to that belief like a lifeline, certain that the roar of scandal would eventually subside, leaving her music to speak its truth long after people forgot the rumor ever existed. In time, as fresh headlines emerged and older scandals faded from memory, Lorrie Morgan breathed easier. She came to realize that the rumor, while painful, also revealed her own resilience. Freed from the burden of endless speculation, she embraced a creative rebirth, exploring new collaborations and reflecting on her tumultuous journey. Though the rumor never fully vanished, its sting lessened. As Morgan once said, "A song will outlast a scandal every single time." And that simple truth buoyed her spirit through every performance thereafter, unwavering and unbroken. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.